Let's now get the thoughts of the Filipino-Chinese Chambers of Commerce and Industry President Cecilio Pedro. Mr. Pedro, thank you so much for joining us. You just heard in that report differing views by senators on the Maharlika Investment Fund. Say we should fast track it. Some say that we should look into it with a fine-tooth comb. What is the stand of the chamber? Do you believe that the Maharlika Investment Fund should be fast-tracked and signed into law as soon as possible?
Wow. First of all, Rico, it's a pleasure to be back with you again. As always, you're my favorite broadcaster. At this point in time, I have a hard time, making decision on Maharlika because I'm not privy to the details in the discussion in Senate. But reading the bill that was presented to me, I understand the intention is really good. Ang intention dito is to help those who needed help the most, which is what is needed today. That for me is good. But moving forward, as to the source of funds, as to how you will implement the investment, medyo pag-usapan natin yan. Kasi tama yung sinasabi ng mga ilan na senators, wala naman tayong windfall. Pag may windfall, it's easier for us to decide, like Norway or other countries. They have so much money generated from oil, from gas, and from other sources. So they have excess funds to do this. Sa atin, medyo wala tayong excess funds eh. Lahat ng funds, kailangan we should properly use. But having said that, I also believe if you have a party or a group of people that can manage your fund professionally with the right transparency, with the right knowledge and interest, which is to help the fund to generate more dividends so that we can benefit the poorest of the poor. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not? So, pagsamahan natin itong mga questions and we can hopefully come up with a good decision.
But still, many questions.
Yes.
Mr. Pedro, no? What is the chamber's stand on this? Because the president says it's an urgent bill. Senator Mig Zubiri said it has to be passed by June 2 before the Senate takes a break. So should we really fast track it or should we really take time? I mean, maybe look at it again. Maybe after the State of the Nation address of the president. I mean, there's still a lot of time to really analyze and to put really very important provisions into this Maharlika Investment Fund.
Well, if there is a deadline set by the president, there must be a good reason why we want to rush through this. Kung papayag sila, walang tulugan for the next 4 or 5 days, gawin natin ang dapat gawin. Okay? As a BSP, they put a lot of emphasis on prudential standards or standards set by BSP for banks, for transparency, and for credibility. Kailangan credible ang mga board members, kailangan may mga controls and measures, standards set so that we will be able to meet the minimum or the highest standards required, especially in a government setup institution. So medyo pwede naman gawin pero madugo yun. Kailangan na yung mga standards, kailangan malinis.
Oo.
Kitang-kita ng mga masa.
Yes.
Bago nating approve yan.
Oo.
Pag hindi, di pag-aralan muna natin. Di ba? Kailangan sigurado natin when we pass the bill, it is beyond questionable doubt.
That is a very good point that you mentioned, Mr. Pedro. Without any questions, without any doubts, no? And you also made a point earlier in your first answer, no? That all of these sovereign wealth funds abroad, Singapore, Norway, Hong Kong, they all have surplus funds. They're a surplus economy. Tayo, we're a deficit economy. Trilyon-trilyon ang ating utang sa mga local banking institutions and international banking institutions. Close to 14 trillion pesos. Hindi lang yon, Mr. Pedro. I mean, we're a deficit economy. Trade deficit, current account deficit, lahat deficit. Wala tayong surplus whatsoever.
Yeah, that is a challenge we have to address, First and foremost, deficit tayo. But in spite of our deficit, if we have excess funds that can be properly invested, why not? My answer is, why not? Pag-isipan natin, baka yung mga SS, instead of making 1% or 1.5% or 2%, maybe we can make 3 or 4, which is 1 or 2% of so many billions, and that will hopefully generate some additional income to help the poorest of the poor. The challenge here is we have so many poor people that needed help. And if the intention is really to help the poorest of the poor, why not? That's my answer to the sources of funds. Pero at the bottom line, if we get the right people to handle it, may pag-asa.
Pero sinasabi po nila, Mr. Pedro, na once implemented, itong Maharlika Investment Fund will really only have an immediate impact on our kababayans 5 to 6 years from now. Importante ngayon yung mga pinasa nila, yung Trabaho Act, yung Estate Tax Amnesty Extension, yung Regional Specialty Centers Act. Importante talaga ito, no? Magkakaroon ng immediate impact on all Filipinos, and many Filipinos will benefit. Pero sinasabi nila, ang benepisyo dito sa investment fund nito, hindi immediate, kundi it will take several years before we can reap the benefits of the dividends or the investments of this fund.
Alam mo, tama po yun, Rico. When we look at investment, may package yan. Some will reap benefits immediately. Some will reap benefits in the short term or medium term. And some funds will generate for the long term. That's how we look at investment. Hindi pwedeng lahat short term. Kasi yung short term, you take more risks. Yung long term, you take a more cautious but less risk to generate funds. So it's how you interpret and how you avail of all of these resources and put it in the right perspective or in the right framework. Ang daming paraan dyan. May long-term investment, may short-term. And I think this Maharlika Fund, they're looking at a long-term investment. But during these volatile times, which we are in currently, where the oil goes up and down, where there are so many ifs and buts, medyo mahirap sabihin natin that this is good for 3 years or for 5 years or for 6 years. So the intention now is for professionals, you really good people who knows about investment and who knows about how to manage fund professionally, that can handle the fund properly with the right standards beyond questionable doubt, that moving this fund forward will help the country.
Ayan, titingnan na lang natin, no, Mr. Pedro, kung ano mangyayari this week. Mapapasa itong Maharlika Investment Fund sa Senado. Thank you so much for joining us.
Tama po yun.
Thank you so much, sir, for joining us on The Final Word, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Filipino-Chinese Chamber of Commerce and Industry President Cecilio, Pedro.